Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. BobbyFi with my man, Eric Sheets-Haber. Got some, look, I'll start off with my little stuff. Finally turned around the losing streak. I couldn't go 11 days. It only lasted 10 days. I didn't play any basketball this weekend because honestly, I've been getting just a little frustrated. And the weekends get so nuts with the late stuff. And I wanted to spend some time with my daughter and wanted to go for some drives and quarantine and all that stuff. But anyway, I'm excited to be back, and it's nice to turn it around. Sheets had a nice golf weekend. Sheets, why don't you talk about that quickly, and then we'll talk about the slate.
So what was interesting was that I played the showdown slate, and I played on Sunday, whatever. I put in 20 lineups, and I was actually, if you guys really knew how close I was to winning, I was in first place with, literally one hole left. And it was showing like 100,000 or whatever. And I'll tell you, when you play showdown, I just presume I'm going to lose, right? Just I figure there's so many things can happen. But then I figured out that that Homa, who I didn't have, needed to actually make birdie on 17 from the bunker to go up and down to catch me. If he doesn't do that, I literally win 100,000. So I finally got involved in sweating it, and it turns out he didn't. He went up and down and he got there. And then, I know he missed a 3-foot putt on 18, but that really wouldn't have changed much because it was the birdie on 17 that got the 5.5 points.
Right.
That got me past. And so I went from winning 104,000 to winning like 1,200. So fortunately, again, I only sweated it for like 10 minutes because I was sweating it the whole time.
I think the most fortunate thing about this is that it was you, not me. I'd be breaking something. Sorry, go ahead, Chief.
But it was crazy because, I don't know what it was. I think my projections worked on both sites because I was literally winning on both FanDuel and DraftKings Showdown all day. I was in top 10, multiple lineups. I just figured that guys had the early guys, the late guys would just swamp me, but they just never did. Burns was just kind of whatever. You know what I mean? All the guys that really started late, with the exception of one guy I had, which was Finau, just really didn't do all that much. So I ended up making money in FanDuel, making money in DraftKings on golf, and then as usual, I don't know whether it's as good or bad, but I made 5 of 6 in my big one on DraftKings, and that was enough to make me profitable on DraftKings Golf Total. All it does is makes me pissed that the 6th guy didn't get there, right? Because the 6th guy get there, I guess I would have literally been battling for top 10 or something like that. I would imagine. Who knows? But and then I had a couple of good sweats in MMA. I was one fight away from optimal there. And then the guy I locked in lost. And I have to hear it from the people in Discord that was telling me not to lock him in. But you know what? I gotta go with what I feel and what my numbers tell me. So that's the way it goes. All right, you ready to get back going? I'm glad you're off the side. I guess that one more thing. Yeah. Somebody who's fishing off my shit list. I used to say this a lot. Back when I played poker, I always said that every time I threatened to quit Ultimate Bet, I felt as though Ultimate Bet always knew I was about to quit and then just let me run really hot and win a huge tournament every single time.
With that side, it's actually possible.
and that happened with me. I was totally into just never ever playing Chris Middleton again. And I'm like, you know what? Last night I'm going to play him. Last time I'm going to play him. And he scored 1 million fantasy points, and I made decent money yesterday. So,
there you go. I don't believe
Chris
in
Middleton is back in my not so good graces, but at least he's back to average.
Yeah, man. I'm impressed with how you do all this stuff on the weekends and everything too. It's actually I think that it is a more profitable time to play the NBA stuff. You've been up there. If you look at your weekend numbers this year, they've got to be awesome ROI wise.
Right.
All right, let's get into it. I like this slate. I'm really disappointed. I every time Westbrook plays in LA, I always go. Obviously, I can't do that.
Oh, that's right.
So I'm not able to see that tonight. And I'm also interested in getting into that game a little later, just because, hey, Washington was looking like they were about to be the worst team in the NBA, and they're the hottest team in the NBA, not named Utah right now, pretty much. All right, let's get into the first game here, Sheets. Houston, Chicago. This is a spot where in Chicago, it's going to be hard to try and find run backs because you're going to want to play Houston guys pretty much no matter what, right? I think we're on that same page, right?
Yeah, so why don't we update people on what's going on? So apparently, this still needs confirmation because you get different takes or whatever, but apparently Cousins is finished there.
Yep.
And at the very least, he's not going to play. I think. I mean, like I really have heard conflicting reports, but I'm operating the assumption that he's not playing for now. And Houston is certainly one of at least maybe three teams, but I think maybe the main team. We'll see from which to extract value tonight, because you're going to want to play either Luka, Lillard, LeBron, Beal, Westbrook. You know what I mean? They're guys you're going to want to play. Not to mention Levine, right? So you are going to be looking for value, and Houston is the natural place to get it, especially with Cousins out. So the question is what to do with that. In other words, like if Cousins out, one thing you might say is, okay, so that means that PJ Tucker is going to be playing like a zillion minutes, but he plays a zillion minutes anyway, doesn't he?
He doesn't as much as he used to in the past. They've been having him more around that 30-minute, 24 to 30 minute sort of range. But I do think that he would get the bump in minutes tonight, especially. Well, not especially. I mean, the Bulls can play small too, but I think they're going to want to play Wendell Carter minutes. So I do see him out there on the court quite a bit because they just have literally like no size. I mean, at all. Like I've never seen a smaller. This is smaller than they were last year. Like they're really little.
So what? So I guess the obviously the moto play here is Wall, right? I mean, he remains in the. Now again, I don't think the Cousins being out necessarily hurts him. I mean, helps him incrementally, right? Because I mean, it's not like Wall's particular usage was taken by Cousins. Right?
Well, no, but they would dump the ball to Cousins a lot in the post, and then just sort of let him go to work, which Wall's sort of out of that play. Then, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, now they're going to be playing 5 out. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So Wall certainly is a strong play. I don't know how he's going to fit into the builds, though. I mean, he's going to be really popular because he's going to project really well.
Right.
But I really wonder how he fits into the builds. Are people, or me for that matter, going to be more inclined to just say, I want to play Luka and LeBron, or something like that, or Luka and Lillard if that's what I want to do. Maybe I don't. But,
yeah.
Or would you rather? Right. That's what I'm saying. Or would you rather do a middling thing, in which case you play maybe Wall and Ja or something like that.
Right.
Or maybe just Ja or Ja and Chris Paul or something like that. So I'm not sure. Like if I had to guess, I would say he's actually going to be less popular than he projects, although he's still going to be popular, if that makes any sense.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I actually think that as of this time, I would think Eric Gordon would be the more automatic play, just because he saves you a little bit, feels very safe, good matchup. I think he's going to be probably similarly owned to Wall.
I think on FanDuel particularly, right?
Maybe. I actually haven't. I haven't looked as much at FanDuel, but on DraftKings, I think he makes a lot of sense. So I like both those guys. What you mentioned about value is interesting though, because the hardest thing with this team is like, how do we like DraftKings? I'll give them some credit, man. They've done a little bit of a better job. These guys aren't like cheap. You know what I mean? Daniel,
I really think you have to. I mean, I really think that if you're going to do this,
yeah,
I think you really have to play PJ Tucker.
I think that's what makes the most sense. But the thing is, we know PJ Tucker can be on the court for 30 plus minutes and not score any fantasy points, like any.
Yeah, but can he with Cousins and no rebounders in there?
He probably has to rebound some, but they have good rebounding guards too. I mean, Wall, right. Gordon, House, Tate. I mean, everybody else, Brown. These guys are all decent rebounders for small guys. Nwaba. And there's a lot of other. I mean, they're just a lot of spread out minutes with guys who aren't minimum cost exactly. So, like, yeah, I do think that PJ Tucker is one of the guys. Look, he's definitely one of the guys I'm looking at. Sterling Brown, priced from a price perspective, but I think Daniel House gives you the most upside of these potential value guys. I think that he can get hot. He can actually take enough shots from out there, and his 20 whatever minutes that he's projected could easily turn into like 38. I think Jashawn Tate is the best of all the plays. He's just a little bit too expensive. The best like player of them all. And maybe he's almost not too expensive with the way that they're running things right now. But I think he's probably a little bit too high for me on this slate. But I look, right now I've got them all sort of in a similar spot. I'm sort of thinking there will be some news, but you're right, except for PJ Tucker, who I do have a little bit more interest in just because we need value on this slate. He's 3.5 and he's going to play 30 minutes. It doesn't feel great. I think we might get better value later. But this is an 8 Eastern slate start, so we should know about most things, hopefully, by the time this game does start. I don't know how much, maybe we'll talk about buying stuff if we have other guys questionable later, but Yeah, I think that for me, like the guys I'll own the most, I'll have Gordon, Wall, then Tucker on the Houston side.
Well, by the way, I'll tell you, I think the tallest guy on the team is 3K, and he hadn't played in a while though.
Is who?
He's 3,000, and he hasn't played in a while.
Who is it?
It's Kurix.
Oh my God, I kind of like wasn't thinking about Kurix. That's actually.
I wasn't either. I'm just telling you, he's probably the tallest guy on the team, but he hasn't played, and he plays a total of 20 minutes for the whole season. So I don't know.
It's interesting. If I were them, I don't know why you wouldn't just play him. Like, yeah, that actually
beats me. I don't know. We'll see.
I have to look into that one a little bit. Okay. Chicago side, Sheets. I have serious interest in one guy. Can you guess who that guy is? It's not the guy you're probably going to guess.
The same guy that everybody's going to have at the end. It's going to be a 40% on Wendell Carter Jr. at the end.
I don't know if it will be because the center spot, but well, maybe it will be. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's the guy. But I thought you would have guessed Levine because I always like Levine, and Levine is
Carter. I mean, no, I think Levine's fine, but I'm telling you, by the end of this, I think Carter's going to end up being really popular. Hey, but if not, let's not even if he's 20%, whatever it is.
Right.
I mean, I'll try this. I mean,
Yeah, it's a little worrisome sometimes because they play Thad and they can kind of go small, and obviously Houston's a team you could do that against, which is why I guess his minutes are projected below 30. But it's kind of weird to project him below 30 when as a starter he's a 30+ minute a game player, and he played 33 minutes in the last game. So, I like Carter, and then other than that, I think that Levine is fine. I just think there's other guys, but they're.
Can I tell you? I don't think he's fine. Okay, so and one of the things prevented me from playing Carter or whatever. Mm-hmm. So let's just say that for the argument's sake that the last two guys that Houston's I want to say the last two guys. So without Harden, right? Houston's been really pretty stingy defensively, whatever. They're without Cousins. Cousins is like the worst defender in basketball. I think this game could be really low scoring. I think the whole thing could be like really ugly. And I don't know if I want to play Levine at 9,500 in a situation like this. I know he's matchup proof and all this stuff, but I mean, I guess there's no rim protection either. That's the other issue.
So my only counterpoint is that all the other guys who are priced up and everything. Like, I actually think Levine is basically similar to a play to Bradley Beal in general, except for he's got a better matchup than Bradley Beal does. But
yeah,
I mean, look at this guy. Look what he's doing.
I know, the guy's insane.
It's nuts. I mean, he had the one game he doesn't get 50. It's because he's 9 for 28 in Philly. That's the one bad shooting game he's had like recently. He feels like a 50. He'll be right around 50 again. And a little bit cheaper, and raw points matter.
You know what else, by the way? I mean, it's something I just kind of touched on, which I think I should probably just even go into it a little bit more, is that, Houston, when they play 5 out, whatever, if Tucker's a center or whatever they're going to do, like so much of Levine's game is getting to the rim that if there's no rim protection, he really could go bananas.
Yep, absolutely. And you've got a couple defenders and you've got other guys who just can't defend at all on the perimeter, and he's just going to blow by. He'll end up taking 12 free throws or something like that. I just feel like it's a pretty good spot for him. But yeah, he's not like, I don't have him like way up on my board. It's mostly Carter for me on this side. The guy who I'm going to keep taking chances on. And by the way, I'll just tell you right now, in a couple of years, you guys will remember this. Patrick Williams will be looked at, and people will say that guy could have easily been the number 1 pick in that draft. He is going to be a terrific basketball player. He's already an awesome defender. He's figuring out his whole game, but I like the guy in general. He's 5,100 is probably a little more than we want to pay for him right now because he's not really doing too much offensively. 48 on FanDuel. He's sort of reasonable, but he's the other guy I'm willing to take a shot with.
I think my favorite, and I don't know why I don't like to play Eric Gordon. So I think my favorite by
the way, about Eric Gordon, you're pretty consistent about it.
Yeah, that's true. My favorite guy, I think, if I had to pick one on Houston, I guess the safest really would be House, right? I guess that's where my favorite Houston guy would be.
I don't know about safe.
No, I mean, how's he not? I mean, like you said, I mean, he's with Cousins out too. I mean, he gets rebounds too.
Yeah, he does. No, I mean, I like him. Don't get me wrong, but it's I don't know. I've never used the word safe with House because even when they don't have bodies, and we've seen this story so many times over the last couple of years. It's not like I've seen him just put up 0. Like I've literally seen zeros out of him.
We're going to put Gordon in for now, just because, I mean, he's going to show up, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of Wall, by the way?
Yeah, I like Wall. I prefer Gordon a little bit as of right now, especially because there are a couple guys worth paying up for, but I actually like the middling builds. But for me, it's like I don't see Wall as being so much better of a play than Ja Morant, and I'm guessing he's going to be significantly more owned. So that's sort of just the way I'm looking at it. But I definitely will have a good share of both Wall and Gordon. I just want to see a little bit more about ownership, and yeah, it's pretty much it.
And meanwhile, not that you should play this way, but with all my talk about this game should dud. I mean, like if you get some crap like this home, you put 4 Houstons, the 2 Chicagos, and then you can win by the time it's 10 o'clock. But
right.
Okay.
Yeah, but I actually agree with your sort of thought about the game. I mean, I'm not saying that it's gonna. I would bet the under if I had to bet one way or the other, but I could see it getting ugly. So
yeah, I don't know, man. I now that I'm thinking more about it, I mean, it's with Cousins out, it's 5 out. I mean, this is. I don't know how this doesn't actually score a little bit. I don't know.
I've only scored over 100 points, like over 101 points, I should say, once in their last 4. But they've had, that's a lot of games under 100 points in their last 7. I'm just saying they've had some sloppy, ugly ones. This could be one of them. Houston. All right, you want to talk about Memphis and Dallas?
Yep. All right, a couple of comments on this. First of all, I don't know if he's going to end up being popular, but I would not go necessarily chase Justice Winslow unless he is unless the guys that were out remain out. And when he played, you'll even see it in the DraftKings description actually. There was no Kyle Anderson for that game. There was no Grayson Allen for that game, and no Dylan Brooks or Brandon Clark, right? So just make sure that, before you just go and read a little more and play too much of him, that the right guys are out for him to be a good value play. I'll just leave it at that. The other thing is from Memphis, we kind of touched on it a little bit already, is Ja is a tremendous play. I don't even care what his price is. I mean, the fact is he's under 8K, so he's a really good play. And the fact also is he's under 7,500, which makes him kind of a ridiculous play. That's the way I'm looking at it. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think that, honestly, I know it's a little different situation. I think that Ja outscores John Wall, like raw points. You know what I mean? Like without the
I can get behind that.
So I like him. Also, Dallas can't really guard big, so I do like Joe Val. Mm-hmm. And you just have to really just see who's in for the rest of the Memphis stuff. But I would definitely, I like both those guys. And on Dallas, Luka's very, very tough fade. He's the first guy I think I want to get in. I think I prefer him over LeBron. I'm not sure, but I really would like to play them both. So we'll see.
Interesting.
But I think Luka's obviously a pretty elite play. I'll leave it to you to tell me whether I'm supposed to play Porzingis or not. Aside from that, I don't know if I'm going to do semi-obvious, but if you don't want to play Luka, there's Brunson, there's Richardson. They always pop as decent value plays. But to me, I'm gonna try to get Luka in.
Yeah. So the Winslow thing, it's all going to be about how they want to work him in. My personal opinion, he's the 3rd best player or maybe the 4th best player on this team. If he's anywhere near what he was before he got injured. And I think he will be. He's just I love the way he plays basketball. I've always been a huge Winslow guy. I don't think he's ever really gotten to hit his ceiling. He was sort of in that rotation. But there's like a 500 small forward / guard, like the guard / forward thing on Memphis is just so loaded. I mean, they have, if everybody plays, there's just a lot of bodies between Melton and Bain and even Tyus Jones, who'll take away some of the point usage. But my guess is that they're going to try to play this guy. Like they did trade for him. That was their, what they used the Iguodala chip for last year. And if he gets 20 minutes, like I find him to be a tough fade at 3,600. I don't know how much he will play because they got smashed the other day, and I don't know even what he would have played in that spot. Like, I don't know. He ended up with 21 minutes. I don't know where he'll end up. If they're willing to do that with him, why wouldn't I assume that they could play him 20 again, even if everybody's healthy? He's a part of their team. You know what I mean? He's not like some random scrub guy who just got minutes because everybody was out. No, he's back and he's their guy. That's my take on it. I think Ja and Valanciunas are the preferred plays here without Brooks, because even with Winslow in there, like it's not like he won't. I don't think he'll take away, but Joe Val gets the biggest boost without Brooks in general, because they do run. Brooks does eat up some usage. So I go Morant than Joe Val in that order. But I definitely have more interest in Morant. I also think that we can speculate. So Brandon Clark, somebody's got to have to explain this one to me. Why is Brandon Clark projected to play 24 minutes, 25 minutes? Do you have any sites that have him higher than that, or have you seen anything? I just don't understand it.
I didn't really do any deep dive on him yet.
Okay, so I have so basically he didn't play the second of a back-to-back the other day.
Actually, I do. Hold on. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
He already played the second end of one back-to-back, but he didn't play the second end of the back-to-back the other day because of the injury. I've heard nothing about a confirmation of him playing 24 minutes or having any sort of limit. He played 33 in the last game he played. He's 5,500. I definitely have interest here, and I don't think you don't want to play him in the same lineup as Joe Val, but they can play on the court at the same time. It's not like Brandon Clark can't play like a 3-4. Anyway, it'd probably be more like a 4 because this team's got 500 threes. But still, like I see that projection on him. If you make it 28 minutes, all of a sudden he looks like a great play. And maybe
I actually have him playing 28 minutes.
That makes sense, and he seems like a solid play then.
And 27-ish fantasy.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. But I think there's upside on those minutes. I think there's upside to 30. I think there's 30 plus. I mean, he just played 33. So how can we not?
Yeah, but hold on. But what I'm looking at is actually has Jang out. So wait.
I don't have Jang in either.
Why would he not be in?
I don't know that there's any reason to try to play Jang. Like
I don't know, 24 minutes last game. No, I mean.
On the second of a back-to-back with no Brandon Clark.
Oh, okay.
Brandon Clark. So their whole lineup is totally different now. Like Gorgui Dieng is not like a part of their team. Brandon Clark is like their second most important player. He's the guy who's.
So here's like one model I'm looking at, right? So this is actually presuming that Brooks out, Dieng out, Concher out,
yep,
whatever. So yeah, this has him at 28 minutes. Brandon Clark, 28 minutes. This one also has Justice Winslow, a very healthy 24 minutes.
Yeah, see, that's what I think could be possible. And I just think that it's not, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just.
Yeah, maybe I got to be a little more lenient with the Justice.
I just think there's something to this spot if people don't go there, and I'm going to be I'm going to be into it.
Okay.
All right. So, but as far as Dallas goes, like, it's kind of crazy that Tim Hardaway Jr. is now 4,400, but he certainly deserves it the way he's been playing. But that's something he could easily just like have a normal game and just get 30 fantasy points, and he's really cheap. I know they have other guys. I know there's a lot of you could maybe make a similar argument about Brunson, although he doesn't get there as consistently in general. But both these guys are kind of interesting, man. I mean, just a little bit cheap, but I think that if you're going to play anybody else, if Josh Richardson's probably slightly better just because the guarantee for minutes and the small forward eligibility, which Brunson doesn't have, obviously Hardaway does. But I have mild interest in all of those guys, just where I'm value saving. And it is hard to justify the Kristaps price until you realize that everyone's a little bit higher than usual. And he also, like he can crack 50, no problem. It's not like this is a tough matchup for him. But I just don't know if that's where my builds are going to go. And I'm happy to see that they finally priced Luka, and they need to start doing this, making these guys closer to 12K, because it's kind of annoying every night when you're just like picking between all these awesome plays. Like give us some, I don't know. It's just I would rather play LeBron tonight with the discount, but I do like Luka. Obviously, I just don't know how much of him I'm going to end up with. I'm sort of leaning more middling build at the beginning of the day.
That's interesting.
That's my first thought. Unless we get because the value out there is not like screaming, you have to have this value. I don't know.
That's true.
So Miami, OKC.
Yep. Speaking of which,
this could be a big one.
Yeah. So if same as usual, if Hero is out, then you're back to I guess Nunn and Duncan Robinson, I suppose. Those would be the places I would go. Then if all these guys are in, I guess my top point per dollar play is somebody a little funny, but I like Bam and Butler, I suppose. I like Olynyk at 4,500 again. I don't know. So for me, if Hero is out, I'll go to the like I said, Nunn and who's the other thing I said, and Duncan Robinson. And if not, Duncan Robinson pretty frothy on DraftKings though, 5,200. Maybe just to none, or maybe to nobody. I don't know. Olynyk 4,500. Olynyk and Bam probably my two favorites. Then Butler. I
think I need Hero out to want to do too much here personally. Okay. I do think that Butler has been really. I mean, like he's been awesome. He got triple doubles now in 3 of the last 4, and definitely could do it again tonight. It's a good matchup. It's not like this incredible matchup. It's not like OKC is going to play all that fast. Feels like Miami should control the game, but then you sort of watch Miami. It's really just struggling all over the place this year. But if Hero's out, Nunn is the obvious guy to pivot over to. I also think Butler gets a boost, and I like Bam. I just maybe these guys do fit a little bit more of my middling build, but I don't know. I think it's hard not to want to go up to LeBron for me, but I think they're both reasonable. I don't have a really strong pick.
Let me push it just a little more. So Kelly Olynyk's had 29, 24 minutes in the last 3 games. And they rewarded that by dropping him in price from 5K to 4,500.
Interesting.
Considering also that what's his name is probably going to be out, Horford. That whole thing might be a little small anyway.
I'm sort of into this, what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. To me, this is a piece of cake play. I don't know.
I love that you're taking that because I don't think that's the way people are going to view this at all, and I'm into it, Sheets, and I like it. You want to talk about OKC because that's
So again, I presume once again that Horford's out and Roby's a lock. Is that the same story?
No, he's 4,900. He's not necessarily even going to start.
Okay.
He hasn't been at all productive, and he hasn't played more than 23 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, not at all productive. He had 2 games where he got to 29 and a half. That's fine. We'll definitely take that. But that was in 23 minutes. It's there. I mean, I've got minutes spread around to everyone, but Baisley, Maladon, and Shea. Everybody else feels like a wild card play to me. Okay. I'm sorry, and Dort.
What about if Shea sits? I mean, if Shea sits, then it's a whole nother story.
Yeah. Do we have anything that makes us think Shea might sit?
No, just off a knee injury back to them playing it back to back.
Yeah, and they are trying to lose. 100% this team is tanking. I'm telling you right now that they are doing it in a very weird way, but they are tanking. And they play hard though too. They're sitting out too many of their good players to actually win too many games.
I mean, I would just be ready if they do announce Shea out, and I would just go plow into Maladon, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that I would say the same thing for our boy Diallo too. But in the meantime, right now I've got just mild interest here, but I do think that Baisley, Maladon are.
Oh, wait, I got a better one for you.
What's that?
So if you don't want to play Roby, what's wrong with Muscala at 3,800?
Yeah, it's not a fun play at all, and it's not a good matchup for him. He doesn't fit in anywhere defensively in this one to me, but he can always get hot from the outside. You're going to be relying on a guy who will take threes. What I like about him is he's willing to shoot out there.
See, listen, a lot of people go for that, Levine versus Lillard back and forth, we're going to go for the Muscala Kelly Olynyk back and forth 3-point shooting
double center, actually Olynyk's
double center 3-point shooting contest. I like it.
Yeah, but I that's a tough game for me, and I'm probably going to have more thoughts on that later because it's kind of ugly, man.
Okay. Portland, Phoenix. Here's I guess I'll start. My comment on Portland, Phoenix kind of goes like this. If the price tag on Lillard and the realization that Phoenix is a really good defensive team and that Chris Paul's a really good defender, if all of that creates a situation where Dame Lillard is 5% on a 6-game slate, I'm going to have to be forced to play it. However, everything I just said is true. I mean, like he has a really, really big price tag. Phoenix is a really good defensive team. Chris Paul plays really good defense, and that's why Lillard's probably not going to project to be all that tremendous a play. But you just watch the group think, watch the ownership, and if Lillard's really going to end up being one of those situations like Harden is every night, you know what I mean, where they just get ignored for like a lot of probably good reasons, and you get him at like 7% ownership on a 6-game slate, I would just not completely fade it. That would be my thing. I don't want to play anybody else on Portland at all. And on Phoenix, I'm a little stubborn with Phoenix. In that, I still, for whatever reason, would rather play Booker than Paul, but I probably don't want to play either.
Well, you were wrong Friday. I nailed that one Friday. That was one of the things I did.
Yes, you did.
There's certain guys, I'm telling you, man, it's Chris Paul and LeBron are like two of my biggest. But if I ever say to play them, it seems to go well.
Yes, you did.
But so Chris Paul is another good example of being a good pivot off of John Wall, right? Like, and I do think he'll have a little bit of ownership. I actually like Booker too a little bit. I mean, it's a good matchup for everybody, so it's hard not to have some interest.
What about Carmelo?
I don't have any interest in Carmelo. I'm not really looking to try and attack Phoenix. But Carmelo is friends with Chris Paul. There is some, any extra little thing to give Carmelo a narrative. He'll always find extra reasons to shoot anyway.
Sure.
But the truth is he hasn't gotten there in the last 5 games, and I don't want to just all of a sudden target him against a good team just because of a mini narrative, which is not really even that much of a narrative. I actually think that your best plays in this game are probably the big men, both centers. Ayton's been a little better defensively this year, but overall is not a guy who we should be scared of. We've got a lot of minutes coming out of Cantor in general. Cantor, actually he's been good, but I actually am surprised that his production per minute hasn't been quite what it has been in the past. And this is a guy who used to just put up 1.4, like he was just a monster per minute player. He's still been okay, but not like he used to be. I mean, I know it's hard with Lillard having 50% usage and all that. By the way, nice to see Westbrook get one back on Lillard the other night. Lillard was absolutely terrible. He was awful in that game. I know he put up 66 fantasy points, but he was 10 for 30 from the floor. He was really, really bad. But anyway, Lillard, I don't know, man. I guess I'm doing this a lot. I guess I'll say my favorite plays at the end, but I'm not as high on a lot of things here. I have one sneaky play from Phoenix, which is, I don't know how sneaky it is, but Jay Crowder, another one who the minutes can fluctuate, and they took him out of the starting lineup the other night, and they're going back and forth with him and Kaminsky, but he's still been really productive when he's played. And this is a matchup where he should get open looks from 3. He does well in these up-tempo matchups. So if he does end up in the starting lineup, I'm going to have a lot of interest in him.
What about Ayton?
I like Ayton. I like both the big men. I said I think that's my favorite part of this game is the big men. And I'm open to look, Lillard's usage. I just want to say how high it's been. It's absurd. This guy you're talking about 41% last game, 43% the game before, then 35, then 41 before that. These are ridiculous rates. And I know it's Chris Paul. I know they're a good defensive team. I know there's even, I don't want to say blowout risk, but I don't know. It's not blowout risk, but I just feel uncomfortable with it a little bit. I mostly like my sneaky plays in this game, which are Crowder and then I don't mind taking a shot on Anthony Simons here. I know they hasn't been as good with all the guys back. The minutes are absolutely in flux. They can go either way, but looking for value at 3.7, I think you could do worse than Anthony Simons.
You want to move on?
Yep.
Charlotte, Utah. Guys are priced, and I say this all the time with Charlotte. I mean, even with what's his name out, I just feel as though these guys are priced pretty fairly. I'm just kind of just gazing through this, and nobody really jumps out as just a straight up great value. So if you want to make a tournament play, I mean, you could overpay for LaMelo if you want, or you want to try it. Gordon Hayward maybe going back to Utah. I think he's done this before.
Yeah, he's done well.
Oh, yes. Okay. I don't remember how he actually did, but aside from that, I mean, I don't know, Rozier, PJ Washington's. I mean, again, none of them really stand out for me. Miles Bridges. just really nothing, honestly. And then on Utah, I always try to project this way, but maybe it's just a little silly. So what I like to do is, okay, so with Utah, especially them being like a double-digit favorite every game, you kind of try to find guys that can get run, whether they both, whether they blow the team out or not. So I naturally like get myself drawn to Jordan Clarkson like every single time.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that's just not the right way to think about it. Maybe the way to think about it is that Clarkson's just so part of the regular rotation that he won't even get blowout run anyway. You know what I mean? Like he's another guy that want to kind of, keep healthy. So that logic is not going to really get me anywhere. I guess if I had to pick someone from this game, which I don't have to, I guess Gobert is fine, 7,400, but I'm probably staying away from it.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, the price is like the price for Gobert is so good. I don't care about the blowout risk. I'm going to play the Gordon Hayward going back to Utah thing. I'm going to do it.
There you go.
I don't really care. I know he's had a couple down games, but just want to point out that part of the reason why his numbers haven't been quite the same and his usage hasn't been the same. Have you guys seen what Terry Rozier's been doing? He looks like Zach LaVine all of a sudden or something. It's ridiculous. This guy's put up 50, 53, and 57 and 46 in his last 4 games. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to play him today. I don't think on DraftKings, but I'm not going to tell you you're wrong to play him at all because that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Could play him on
FanDuel at 73.
Yeah,
it's probably a better play over there. Same thing with LaMelo. I like him over there. It makes a lot of sense. I don't know that I want to pay 86 again for him in a tough matchup in this spot. Like he is a guy who can put up that ceiling anytime. This doesn't seem like the ideal situation for it to me. I think that most of my interest is going to be in Hayward and I'll do the PJ Washington thing again. The thing that scares me about it is that I actually think my favorite other play is probably Bismack Biyombo in this game. He's gonna get run against the bigs. Like when they play a guy like Gobert, he's gonna end up getting out there some because it doesn't end up working out too well for Zeller. I think you're gonna see the minutes closer to splitting with these two guys.
Yeah.
I also think that he doesn't always do that much with them, and it's not like Gobert is a guy we're trying to attack. So it's not like the most exciting thing, but he's 3,400 as a center option. You could get really funny and play him with PJ Tucker and then do whatever you want elsewhere as the double center spot. It doesn't feel great. Although PJ, can we get back to PJ? Actually, that's kind of important. Is he power forward eligible today?
Yes.
Oh, that's okay. That makes him a lot more appealing. Yeah, I mean, God, I feel like I liked this slate better before I got into this. I think that the answers for me are pretty simple. It's going to be mostly Hayward, and I'm just going to say PJ Washington is not a 5,400 player. It's going to fluctuate with him. It's going to come and go. The Zeller coming back, and then him getting more run like that, and then PJ got hurt in the middle. He hasn't put up a game in a little while. Don't worry about it. The guy's he's got plenty of 40s in him, and actually I think should do fine in this matchup, even though it's not the ideal situation. But I think he'll get his 30 minutes regardless. So just some interest there, but mostly it's just going to be.
I will also say, by the way, that I'll give you a guy. The reason I want to give this to you is I do think Charlotte is a little sneaky. I think they're better than people think. Then again, I think Utah is probably better than people think too. And I do think that Charlotte plays probably quick, and I think that the Charlotte can press Utah to play a little faster, and unless the game totally blows out, I think you can think about some Utah guys and just kind of staring at it. I don't want to pay 8,700 for Mitchell, but this is not a guy I usually play, but I'm just kind of like getting the idea to play Bojan Bogdanovic at 5,300.
Yeah, I was going to get to that, Bojan and Royce O'Neal.
Royce O'Neal, you like?
They're both, yeah. I mean, they should both be considered in play. It's not on this slate. They wouldn't be in play for us probably on a bigger slate, but they're completely in play to me on this slate.
Okay. You like any of the Charlotte nonsense, like Malik Monk or Cody Martin or anything like that?
I feel like it's really thin, like to try to make those plays on. I mean, look, you're playing on the blowout, but then they have to get the run, and then they have to be effective in the run. And I don't have anybody for enough minutes. I don't think.
No, I don't like it. Yeah.
I don't even know if a Martin will play. I don't have them projected to play, so. I don't know. I'm not so interested in those little pieces. I think what I'll do with my value, other than what we've talked about so far, is going to be in this next game that we're about to talk about.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Okay.
You
Go ahead.
you think you can play the Washington guys, the big guys?
I think that you're. Well, I was going to say that for value, I would speculate like on every Laker. Um, I really think that this is a spot where I expect at least one, probably two or three of them to get there, and possibly in a big way against a team like Washington. KCP, who is not a guy I normally recommend, is a guy who I would definitely be looking at tonight. I also will look at. Oh God, this feels gross. Wesley Matthews. It's about just playing minutes, having open looks against a team that gives up everything. That's really what I'm trying to target here. The problem is there's enough bodies, but I'll just right now that's what I'm having trouble differentiating. I really like this matchup for all these guys. I think Caruso would be awesome if he would get enough run. I don't know if he will. They just sort of, even without AD, have been rotating, but it's been hard to figure because they kind of have been really bad. You'd think at some point, like especially if this game is close, that they would sort of tighten up the rotation a little bit. So I mean, LeBron is the obvious play in the game for me, and then I just have mild interest in. I have a lot of interest in all the value, but it's as a group. I don't really have a strong take outside of KCP probably being my favorite, Horton Tucker being my next favorite, especially like I could see him having a nice tournament game here. He just makes so many mistakes, and he's always getting yelled at by LeBron. It's hard for me to. It's like it doesn't feel like they trust him. Caruso's the guy they feel like they trust the most. But you can't just keep doing this and rotating, playing a bunch of guys 20 minutes and keep losing without AD. They're going to actually have to find a regular rotation that works without him. And my guess is you'll see 30 minutes plus from KCP. I think they'll try to do that with Matthews, but he might be run off the court a little bit in this game, and maybe you start seeing more for Caruso and Tucker. That's what I'm thinking. And then the Washington one is, yeah, you can play them both. It doesn't feel great. The matchup is better than it looks on paper because it's no AD, and the game should stay close. I guess I'd give the slight lean to Westbrook. He's always played extremely well in LA, and he matches up. There's no rim protection anymore for the Lakers, or there's a little bit, I guess, with Gasol, but not in general. It's not as much as usual. So I like Westbrook. Beal obviously can shoot his way into everything. I think I would give the edge to Westbrook, but I'm not like obsessed with this spot. I think I'd rather play, like I could play LeBron with no run backs, but I probably will play him with some Westbrook and some Beal, and maybe even you get a full game stack in here and hope this game goes completely nuts. I do think Washington's been a little slower. The Lakers been a little faster lately, but I think that the total in this game, which is about 126, 226, I would take the over in that spot. I think this game ends up playing pretty fast.
Now you touched on something. I just want to clarify. When you said you play either of them, you play both of them. Would you play both these guys in the same lineup, Westbrook and Beal?
If you can get one Westbrook, Beal, and LeBron lineup, I don't think it's a bad idea.
I don't know if you can do that.
Well, look, it's not like they take away from each other that much. I mean, Westbrook and Beal consistently put up 50 together. They put up 60, so they combined for 120 the other day, right? Beal's been over 50 in 3 of his last 4, or over 54. I mean, his average is about 50, almost 50. I don't think they don't take away from each other that much. They really don't. You're also not looking at guys tonight who are in awesome spots to put up massive ceilings at the same price range. Like if Luka was 10-4 again, yeah, that'd be different, but he's 11-4. You've got LeBron on the other side who you'd already be playing if you play both of them. And then who are you really selecting them over? I mean, yeah, Donovan Mitchell or Zach LaVine or all those guys could have a game, but the savings aren't really there. And these guys actually project better than those guys. Jimmy Butler maybe is a better play, but if you're talking about paying up, I mean, who else are we really talking about other than LeBron that stand out as being as good a plays?
I want to see if you could how you can get all 3 of these guys in the same lineup.
That's what you'd have to do, really thin things, and then you'd have to play KCP. You'd have to play one of the other, PJ Tucker. You'd have to go. I mean, what can you do it?
I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, you can do it for sure. You have to get thin in some spots.
Well, I mean, obviously. Yeah. So on the Lakers, I actually like.
So there you go.
Yeah. So I like Taylor and Tucker probably the best. But like I said, I do think that the guys you mentioned were I guess safer with respect to the minutes. Like Caruso, KCP. I think those guys are definitely the safer minutes guys. And Washington, I did think about going off the rails a little bit, but I just don't think I'm going to do it. I was looking at Rui's a little bit too expensive. Bertans, I just don't think I could do it. And Denny is coming off a really, really bad game. Not bad games, bad minutes game. And he's 30, maybe he's 3,400. Maybe he's someone I could sneak in, whatever, if we really, really starve for value, but whatever. But my initial look was that I thought Beal and Westbrook were both fine. My initial look of the whole slate is I would prefer to prioritize somebody like Luka than either Westbrook or Beal. But that was my first inclination.
Yeah. I just got a bunch of projections that we'll talk about in a minute. I'll see we'll get back to this before we leave. Yeah, this is not a slate where I think that you need as many point sheets. I think this is your kind of a slate. You don't need all of them. I did want to throw out one other guy who I didn't mention, Montrez Harrell.
Yes.
I wish they would give him that. Like, it feels like there's no opportunity for him to extend his run anymore, even when he's playing well. And it doesn't really make sense to me. But I mean, he put up 37 in the last game in Miami, but he did it in 23 minutes. I don't know. I do like him in this matchup. I love him in these types of matchups all the time. It's a small slate. I know Kuzma's a little too expensive, but he's been really, really active. Just trying to get an assist out of that guy is never going to happen. You talk about a guy who I don't know what goes on with him, but he's like never passing the ball. Anyway, I don't love the 6,700 price tag. Otherwise, I'd be talking about him. So we got an update just now about. It looks like I have a projection for Cousins now, and I just think we should have to be aware to watch out for that game. I do want to say, if Cousins plays, by the way, especially after all this nonsense or whatever we want to call it, don't we think that he might get isn't there like more upside for him?
What's the logic with Cousins here?
If he does play, don't you think that's like, after everything that's happened, after they've decided to part ways, we got the message last week, all the stuff, if he actually comes out and plays, don't you think he gets more minutes than like more opportunity than usual if he does? It's the first game, but we should talk about what happens if he is in. I think he becomes a terrific play.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't play him.
Why? What if he plays? No, I'm saying
but what if he doesn't? You know what I mean? You get 0 minutes.
You're not speculating on that. If he started, if he plays, he's going to start.
Okay, so they got to announce he's starting.
Yeah, I mean, I assume he'll start. It'd be really weird
if they announce. I'm telling you, if he, I'll put you another way. If they did not announce he's starting, and people play him, I think it's really a bad idea.
Like, maybe in a long shot tournament, you could throw one in there, but I agree with you. But if he's starting, he's probably going to be pretty high owned, I'm guessing, if he starts.
Why?
Because he's going.
Last time he was 6,400, everybody laughed, and then nobody played him.
On an 11-game slate when there was tons of options and all that. I mean, he put up 44 in the last game he played.
37 minutes. You think this? The guy's coming off 100 ACL tears. You think that? I don't know. You really want to play this guy and risk being able to trade him?
He had 5 days off.
Gosh.
He played 37 on a 3 and 5. Right. I'm just saying, and that was against Philly too. I mean, it makes sense trying to match up with Embiid, but I'm just saying, if he plays, boy, oh boy, I hope everybody doesn't want to play him because I am more than happy to take that shot. And like you said, I think you do have to assume him starting, but that's weird. I don't know what news led to that happening, but I'm guessing there was something that happened that we've missed while we were on air. All right, do you want to jump over to FanDuel, talk about positions?
Sure.
Or I guess real quickly before we do that, I'll just say my favorite, just the guys I'm using the most on DraftKings as of right now, but it's sort of spread out a little bit. Sure. And this is in order, but most of these guys are in similar ranges. Gordon, Carter, Morant, John Wall, LeBron, Gordon Hayward, Brandon Clark. It will be Boogie Cousins, assuming that he's in. Rudy Gobert, Olynyk, Westbrook, Winslow, Tucker.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'll pull this up. So point guard. I mean, the first thing I will say again is if you wanted to pay all the way down, you could go all the way down to Alex Caruso at 3,600, along the lines of stuff we've been talking about, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that the two best plays on the board here, given everything we've spoken about, are going to be mid-range guys. It's going to be LaMelo and Ja Morant. Those are going to be the two ways that I think I might play both of those. I think that's a good way to start. Yep, sure. Luka, obviously great. Lillard. I mean, these are, like you say, it's a 6-game slate, so you would like to get some raw points. But you know what? You'd like to get maybe they'll get raw points somewhere else. I think that Ball is perfectly fine for raw points, for example. And I feel that Morant can score a decent amount of raw points too. So those are probably my two favorites, are Ball and Morant.
Yeah, I really like Paul and Morant as well. I think LaMelo is right there with those guys, in my opinion. And Luka's easier to get to over here.
Yep.
We'll just say that. And Lillard is easier to get to over here. That's pretty much where I'm at. And also we have, there's a lot of good plays you could speculate on here. So I've got actually a bunch of guys on my list. I'm going to narrow this down before the day is over, but I don't really think like you need to do the Sterling Brown thing. I don't mind Caruso. I think Mike Conley, you're starting to get in sort of a funny land at 5,600. It just feels like a little bit crazy cheap. They did limit his minutes in the last game. We'll see what happens tonight, but I think Mike Conley's interesting. I don't understand this projection for minutes, why it's so high for Neto. I know he's played some more in the last games, and I guess with Washington, it sort of is fluid. They sort of mess around with that, but he's been pretty consistently around 20. I'm just sort of wondering why it was there. That's a side note. John Wall will be much less owned over here. I don't mind paying 8,500 for him if we have no Cousins especially. But yeah, I think mostly you pretty much nailed it. Ja Morant and Chris Paul would be the favorites along with LaMelo for me, but I do think all of these other guys are firmly in play as well, including Kobe White at 5,700 if you're going to want run back in that game.
For me, my first look was kind of like two chalk guys, but I don't even know if one of them's going to play. But I presume he is. But so Eric Gordon at 5,300 on FanDuel is kind of tough to fade for me. Yep. Then my next play, again, presuming he plays, is probably Shea. I think he's going to be really popular at 7,500, but he's my favorite, I think. And then my next one, if I had to go down, boy, I mean, just down in rankings, I would say the next three are very equal for me. Booker, Mitchell, and Rozier. So any of those guys kind of work for me.
Yeah, it's hard not to take the recent runs from Mitchell and Rozier pretty seriously. Another good position, but what's interesting is like, I think Shea and Eric Gordon are like where people will start their cash game. Like they'll be the first two guys plugged in on FanDuel, in my opinion. And when you look at, Mitchell's only 800 more than it's maybe these guys get overlooked, and including Rozier, who I like, and Booker. So I'm with you, but I would have Rozier and Mitchell a little bit ahead of Booker personally. And then we have to, obviously, again, all this stuff, we have to wait on Miami news. The value guy you're playing in this range would be, to me, again, KCP or Lou Dort at 4,400.
Or you could play THT at 3,900, no?
Yeah, but it's probably better. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, that makes sense.
Small forward. So once again, we do have to have the whatchamacallit discussion, the Justice Winslow discussion, only because he's 3,900. But I think at this position, I think this is where I'm going to just make sure to play LeBron. Just don't know where the points are going to come from at this position otherwise, unless you play him, unless you want to play Butler right at 9,200. So I think one of these two should probably get in the lineup. And I think that LeBron is just in so much better spot that I think that he's going to be a big priority for me and probably the rest of the United States of America. That's going to be my initial take. Other guys at the position, Carmelo, kind of gross. It's like really all gross. Garrett Temple, Josh Richardson, Daniel House, maybe Hayward. Ugh. it's a shit position. Maybe you're just supposed to play LeBron and Winslow, or just pay all the way up, pay LeBron and Butler and make it work somehow.
Yeah, you can do that. It is a much worse position than the other ones. I don't mind the Richardson pay down. I like Mikal Bridges actually.
Okay, that's something.
And I think that these kind of games, he can be a little streaky with his fantasy production, but he's flashed a ceiling a number of times. The minutes are secure. He would have had a monster game the other day, but they blew him out too before he had the chance to. He'll play 37 minutes in a close game, and 5,500 feels reasonable for him. His position I thought was horrible, and then I looked a little. I don't love the Carmelo. It's fine. It's blah. Daniel House, another one who I'm kind of interested in. I think I prefer him over Carmelo as of right now, assuming that. Well, I guess it depends on what happens with Cousins. Gordon Hayward, though, I'm just going to go right back to it. I'm probably going to end up mostly LeBron, Hayward, and Butler, with a little bit of this other value stuff, assuming who plays, and Mikal Bridges being my next favorite.
Power forward. For me, I still think that if Horford's out, I think that Isaiah Roby, maybe not if not started, but 4,600, I still think is pretty decent. Guy who's showing up for me on this at this price is maybe Kuzma, and that feels a little shitty. So I mean, if I want to wimp out, I guess the best play is Porzingis, as usual on FanDuel. You know what I mean? So I guess he's my favorite, and then I guess Bam too. I guess both those guys are pretty solid. I mean, you can't play all these top plays, right?
Right.
But he's fine. Bam is fine. Ugh, you got to talk me in or off Kuzma. Kleber, 3,900. I don't know. PJ Tucker, help me.
Okay, so I like Jay Crowder.
Ooh, all right. A little help.
Assuming that he does start, which we don't know yet. I love Porzingis. Roby's fine with me, and I actually do like Kuzma. I think those are the main guys you're playing along with Bam. But then my little bit weirder ones, Patrick Williams, 4,800. Kleber, assuming that he gets the minutes, is an interesting value, but I don't love it. I mean, I'll have like maybe 10% of that. Yeah, it's not. I think maybe Baisley gets a little bit overlooked and is a reasonable play because he'll have the minutes, pretty much locked up for 30 plus. Bertans is much cheaper over here, but it shows 3-point shooting reliant. It's hard to have a lot of interest in him. So yeah, it's mostly going to be those other guys for me. Between Roby, Kuzma, Crowder, and Porzingis.
What about center?
So center for me is look. I like Wendell Carter. I also like the idea of playing Gobert here. I think you have lower ownership because of the price, but he will project still decently. DeAndre Ayton is so cheap. I have to take some shots. He's 6,400 against Cantor. I really can't. I know he hasn't been doing it, but I mean, at the same token, I could say the same thing about Cantor at 6,900 on the other side. Kelly Olynyk, your boy, you kind of talked me into him a little bit. And I think that it's okay to play him again over here. He was pretty good for us. What was it the other night when he put up 30 whatever at 4,500 here? That's pretty much it for me. I don't really have anybody else on my list. Oh, Valanciunas is the only other one I didn't mention.
Yeah, my two top plays over here are the same guys that I highlighted on DraftKings, and that's Wendell Carter and Kelly Olynyk. And then paying up a little more for DeAndre Ayton. So those are again, center is kind of I won't say bad position, whatever it is, but it's just it's not like there's some Embiid or Jokic that you know what I mean, like you have to worry about getting 75 points on you.
Right.
Which happened the other day. Did you see freaking Embiid the other day?
That was nuts.
So and it was funny. I didn't have him, and then I'm like looking at my lineups. I'm like, I'm doing well. What's wrong? And I didn't even realize. And I looked at it. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, Embiid and Jamal Murray night. That was pretty.
I had Jamal Murray. That was the thing.
Oh man. Oh boy. And you didn't have Vooch either, huh? Vooch also had a monster game.
Nope. Oh. All right. Okay. So I guess it's Wendell Carter season and Kelly Olynyk, and we'll see what happens.
Now, is tonight going to work for you an hour before lock, or would you rather do a different time?
Yeah, that's a rough one. We'll see. fire it up or whatever. Or, oh, you can't fire it up, can you?
I can fire it up for my own thing, but I can't. It wouldn't be inviting you the same way.
I don't know. I'll have to see. I'll let you know.
Okay, so we'll get back to you, but there will be, no matter what, one of us will be around either an hour before lock, or we'll do it a little bit earlier if that works for Sheets.
All right, sounds good.
All right, guys. Hey, good luck to everyone out there for Sheets and Bobby. We'll see you at the top of leaderboards.
All right, talk to you later.